My girlfriend's family graded me like a product for 18 months until they dumped me over a fake question about a hamster. They tried to kick me out and keep my $27,000 deposit for her new guy, Tommy. I was supposed to sign the transfer papers today. Instead, I pulled out the secret Playbook logs in front of the manager. What I said next, nobody in that room could believe. I grew up in Elk Grove, only child of a woman who raised me alone after my dad died when I was 9. My mom worked nights at a hospital pharmacy. I was the kind of boy who did homework at the kitchen table and fixed the garbage disposal at 12 because nobody else was going to. By 31, I'd turned all that into a quiet engineering career. Predictable hours. My idea of a wild Saturday was trying a new recipe and calling my mom. I met Amelia 18 months before that Thursday at a work happy hour. 29, marketing coordinator, warm and fast, talking the kind of person who walked into a room and rearranged the temperature in it. 2 weeks later, we were dating. 6 weeks later, she said she loved me, and I believed her because she said everything like she meant it. Her family came as a package. Her mother, Delia, ran a real estate firm. Her father, Rich, had retired early from something vaguely finance. Her older sister, Bianca, worked in PR. And then there was Tommy, 34, family friend since childhood, at every dinner, every holiday, every Sunday lunch. When Amelia introduced me in month 3, she said, "My family is really close. Like, maybe too close. You'll see." I laughed. I chalked it up to affection. The first time I had dinner at Delia's house, she asked me 3 questions inside 10 minutes: what I earned, where my mother lived, and whether I believed in loyalty. I answered all 3 without pausing. I thought it was a personality quirk. I thought I did well. There were 3 moments I should have paid attention to. At that same dinner, Bianca leaned in and asked, smiling, if I'd passed the bread test yet. Everyone laughed. I didn't get it. I laughed anyway. A month later, at Delia's 65th birthday, Amelia handed me a microphone and asked me to sing. I'm not a singer. I smiled, passed the mic to Tommy. Amelia went quiet for the rest of the night. She said she wasn't upset. She said it twice. A week after that, Delia told me over coffee, not unkindly, "Tommy just gets us, you know?" And on every single date, Amelia's phone pinged that family group chat going off every 15 minutes. She'd glance at it, laugh, tilt it away. They're obsessed. Sorry. I thought intense was a love language. It wasn't. It was a rubrics. It was a Tuesday night in April. Amelia's apartment. 9:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I just glanced at my phone. A text from my mom about a dentist appointment. We were on her couch. A movie queued up. 2 glasses of red on the coffee table. Her legs were across mine. Everything was fine. She paused the movie, turned her face toward me, and she said, casually, almost like an afterthought, "Want to see my sister's hamster?" I laughed. Not at her at the question. Bianca lived 40 minutes away, in a condo I'd been to twice, and I was pretty sure there was no hamster. I hadn't seen one, Amelia had never mentioned one, and it was almost 10 at night. I said, not really, I'm kind of into the movie. Next time? And I reached for the remote. That was when the silence happened. 5 seconds. It doesn't sound like a lot. Try counting it out in a quiet room. Her face went completely blank, not angry, not hurt, just empty, like someone had closed a window behind her eyes. Then she blinked, smiled a smile that didn't reach anywhere, and said, "Yeah, okay, cool." I hit play. We finished the movie. I didn't notice. The next morning she was short over coffee. Said she hadn't slept well. By Wednesday evening my phone buzzed. I need some space to think. By Thursday she wasn't answering. By Friday she wasn't reading my messages at all. I would find out later that while we were still watching that movie, a group chat I didn't know existed was already debriefing my answer. 8 words about a hamster, and she was already gone. 10 days of silence. 10 days of refreshing the thread, of checking whether my last message had been read, of writing long replies and deleting them. I didn't call her family. I didn't call Tommy. I told myself she needed space the way she'd said. On the 10th night, I was on my couch at a little past midnight, scrolling out of habit, and her Instagram story came up in the little row at the top. 4 people at a brunch table. Amelia in the middle. Tommy next to her, his arm along the back of her chair, her sister Bianca, her mother Delia. Mimosas, a caption in Amelia's loopy font. Finally, someone who gets it. I checked the timestamp. 48 hours after the hamster night. 48 hours. I knew the restaurant. It was a rooftop brunch place downtown, the kind with the white brick wall and the succulents, and Amelia had told me 3 months earlier that she hated it, would never go back. We'd driven past it on a Saturday, and she'd actually made a face. That's the moment I understood Tommy had not walked in after I left. Tommy had been waiting the whole time. I typed one sentence and sent it before I could edit it. We still need to talk about the apartment. 2 minutes later. Read. No reply. She didn't need to answer. Tommy already had. She called me the next evening. It was a Thursday, almost 7. I let it ring twice before I picked up, because I already knew that whatever was coming, I wasn't going to like it. Her voice was bright. Sugared. The voice she used on her mother. Hey, Tieran. So listen. I really want this to be clean for both of us, you know? I didn't say anything. She kept going. Tommy and I mean, you kind of always knew we were close. It's not what you think. But we're going to live together, and the timing worked out, so I'm just going to have the lease transferred into his name. That way you don't have to deal with any of the paperwork. It'll be easiest for everyone. Easiest. That was the word she picked. The lease on our apartment was 12 months at $4,200 a month. The security deposit was first and last plus a full month, $30,000 total. I had wired $27,000 of it from my savings in February. She had covered $3,000. We had never spoken about how it would unwind if we broke up, because the version of her I had been dating didn't seem like a person who would plan for that. She didn't mention any of the math. Not the 27, not the 3, not the ratio. Just clean, easiest, and for everyone. I said, I'll think about it, and I hung up before she could say anything else. 3 minutes on the phone. That was all it took. Easiest for everyone, she said like my money wasn't already hers. 2 days after that phone call, my phone rang at work. Unknown number, local area code. I stepped outside and answered, Mr. Tieran? This is Carla Reyes, the leasing agent for your apartment. I'm calling about an assignment request on your unit. An assignment request. I knew what it was in theory, transferring a lease from one name to another. I didn't know Amelia had already filed one. Miss Reyes walked me through it calmly. A Miss Carver had submitted a lease assignment form substituting a Thomas Pellegrino as co-tenant in my place. The form was complete except for one thing, my signature. I asked. And the deposit? There was a short pause on her end. Miss Carver indicated that you two had already worked out the deposit privately. I said, we absolutely have not. That pause got longer. I see, she said. Then, carefully, how would you like me to proceed? That was the first moment, in the 3 weeks since the hamster night, that somebody outside Amelia's family had paused, had registered that the math didn't add up, had treated me like the adult in the room. I asked for 72 hours before I signed anything. She said that was reasonable. She said she'd noted in the file. I hung up and sat in my car for a while. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted me to pay them to leave. That night, a little after 11, an Instagram DM came in from an account I'd never seen. A woman in her mid-30s. Hiking photos. A chocolate-colored tortoise in the last 3 posts. The name said Luciana. No last name. 3 sentences. Hi. This is going to sound weird. I'm Amelia's cousin. Did she ever ask you about a hamster? I read it 4 times. She hadn't written her sister's hamster. She hadn't written Bianca's hamster. She had written a hamster. Like it was a species of question. Like she had asked other people the same thing, in other rooms, at other times. I typed back, who is this? The reply came almost instantly. Someone who failed a different test, 6 years ago. If you want to know what's actually happening to you, let me buy you a coffee. You don't owe me anything. I just think you should get to see the playbook before it finishes with you. The playbook. I hadn't said that word out loud. I hadn't written it down. I hadn't told anyone about the rubric. She already had a name for it. 48 hours until I was supposed to walk back into that leasing office. $27,000 sitting in a deposit I was being asked to sign away. And a stranger on the internet telling me this had happened before. She knew the question. She already knew the answer I gave. Saturday morning, 10 a.m., a strip mall coffee shop. I got there first. She walked in a faded green jacket and ordered a black coffee before she sat down. Luciana didn't waste a word. There's a system, she said. It's not one question, it's a set of them, 10 or 12, over the first 2 years. Small, deniable, stupid on the surface, the hamster is one. There's a bread one. There's a couch one. I thought about Bianca's smile at that first dinner. The microphone Amelia handed me at Delia's birthday. Mom picks the order, Luciana said. They score the answers in a group chat afterward. Pass enough, you're in. Fail, they line up the next guy. I asked the only question that mattered. Was there ever a hamster? She almost smiled. There has never been a hamster. The question is whether you'll drop what you're doing, on no notice, to perform interest in someone's imaginary pet. It doesn't test what you like. It tests what you'll abandon. She took a sip. We called it the family playbook. Tommy's brother, 6 years ago. I lost a rental deposit too. She looked at me evenly. It's not love. It's a hiring process. After she finished her coffee, Luciana set her phone on the table between us. The screen was open to her photo library, a folder labeled backup. I left that chat the day I figured out what it was, she said. I took everything before I did. She scrolled. The group chat was titled Planning. 4 members: Delia, Bianca, Amelia, and a number I later learned was Tommy's mother. The thread stretched back 4 years. Luciana said there were 847 messages in it. She scrolled to a Tuesday in April, 10:14 p.m. Amelia. Just ran the hamster, he said no. Delia, 2 minutes later. Done. Move Tommy in. Bianca, under that, told you. Engineers fail this one. I sat there looking at the timestamp. I had been on Amelia's couch at 10:14 p.m. that Tuesday. The movie was still playing. I was refilling her wine. Luciana scrolled up, further back, past my name. There were 2 other boyfriends before me. One scored out in 2022, one in early 2023. Each one had his own little rubric presence. Flexibility, money, pet test, song test, bread test with numbers next to the categories. She found mine. Tyrann. Present 6. Flexibility. 4. Pet test. Fail. A scoreline. Like I'd been auditioning. I wasn't her boyfriend. I was a candidate. Then she sent me 3 links. A post on our relationships from 2 years ago. A guy asking if he was crazy for being dumped after turning down a bread tasting at his girlfriend's aunt's house. Comments below saying my ex's family did something just like this. A thread on our just no family from last winter. 5 replies describing the exact same hamster question, same phrasing. One of those replies, Luciana said quietly, was hers. A throwaway account. A forum post from 2022. 7 different men, 7 different cities, same family pattern. The last reply, dated March of that year, ended with one line. I lost $14,000 to them too. 14,000. Mine was 27. That was when the math clicked. This wasn't a breakup. It wasn't even cruelty exactly. It was a revenue model. Move a partner in, collect the deposits in both names, run the tests, fail him out. Move the next candidate in, keep the unit, recycle. I looked up from her phone. It took me 3 Reddit posts, 1 group chat, and a cup of lukewarm coffee to realize I hadn't been dumped. I'd been liquidated. I wasn't the first. I was just the most expensive. Monday morning, I paid $150 for 30 minutes of a tenant attorney's time. His name was Mr. Ng. Small office above a Vietnamese pharmacy. He'd emailed me a form the night before asking for the lease PDF and my bank records, and by the time I sat down across from him, he'd already read both. He did not waste my half hour. California's civil code on lease assignment is straightforward, he said. This unit has 2 named tenants. An assignment to substitute one tenant for another requires the written consent of the non-assigning tenant, that's you and the landlord. The leasing office cannot process it otherwise. They know that. That's why they need your signature. I asked about the deposit. Same principle. A security deposit in California is refunded based on documented contribution. You wired $27,000 in February. You have the bank trace. She cannot reallocate what she did not pay. He slid the lease back across the desk. One clause was underlined in pencil. Show up to the appointment. Bring the bank statement. Don't raise your voice. The leasing office is your friend if you walk in calm and bring paper. He said it like a man who had watched a lot of people fail to do it. I thought about what happened if I didn't. I would lose $27,000 of my own money. Tommy would move into an apartment I'd paid for. Amelia would keep the deposit, the unit, and the story she was already telling her mother's group chat that Tyrann got weird at the end. We had to move on. Another rubric, another candidate, another deposit cycle. My silence wasn't dignity. My silence was a down payment on theirs. I stood up. I shook his hand. I paid the $150. Tuesday, I called Miss Reyes back. I told her I would be at the Thursday appointment in person. I asked her to make sure Miss Carver and Mr. Pellegrino were both there. I said I would be bringing documentation relevant to the assignment request, and I would appreciate it if she had time to review it before the meeting. She paused, the way she had on our first call. Then she said, "Send it over. I'll have it read by Thursday." I emailed her that night the lease with the consent clause marked, the February wire receipt, a one-page summary, and nothing else. No screenshots yet. Those were for the room. I did not call Amelia. I did not text her. I let Thursday come. Wednesday, I printed 3 copies of the family group chat screenshots. Luciana had airdropped me the full set after our coffee, 847 messages worth, but I only needed the Tuesday night thread, numbered, dated, stamped. I stapled each set in a corner and put them in the folder on my passenger seat. The same folder I'd sit with in the parking lot the next afternoon. For 18 months, I had been graded by a family I thought I was joining. On Thursday at 2, I was going to grade them back in writing, in front of a notary. They thought I was coming to sign. I was coming to settle. At 1:58 p.m., I picked up the folder, got out of the car, and crossed the parking lot. The leasing office was quiet. Gray carpet. A printer humming somewhere behind a wall. Miss Reyes was at her desk, mid-40s, gray cardigan, the kind of face that had seen a lot of people try things and fail. Amelia was already there, in a beige armchair near the window. Legs crossed. Phone face down on her thigh, a new posture for her. Tommy was next to her, in a blazer that still had the store creases down the sleeves. Amelia stood up when she saw me and smiled like nothing had happened. "Hey, thanks for being reasonable about this." Tommy put out his hand. "Appreciate it, bro." I didn't take it. I sat down across from them and put the folder flat on the low table between us. 4 coffees on the side counter. 1 for me. I didn't touch it. Miss Reyes slid a single sheet across. The assignment form. 2 signatures already on it. Amelia's loopy signature, Tommy's sharp one. 1 line empty. Mine. I had practiced 40 versions of what I was going to say. In the end, I didn't say any of them. I just opened the folder. Amelia smiled like she'd already won. That was her mistake. I spoke to Miss Reyes, not to them. "Miss Reyes, before anyone signs, I need to correct some numbers on file." I slid the first page across. My bank statement. Highlighted line, February 14th, outgoing wire, $27,000, from my account to the landlord's trust. Under it, Amelia's own transfer $3,000, 3 days later. Miss Reyes picked it up. "Read it." Her eyebrows went up 1/4 of an inch. Amelia's voice sharpened. "Tyrion, don't be dramatic. We talked about this." We had not talked about this. We had never talked about this. She was hoping the professional in the room would hear the word dramatic and default to her side. Tommy chuckled. "Bro, it's not that deep." I didn't look at him. I turned the next page of the folder. The lease. 1 clause highlighted in yellow. Per paragraph 14, I said, still to Miss Reyes, assignment of tenancy requires the written consent of both named tenants and the landlord. I have not consented. Miss Reyes was already nodding slightly, the way a professional nods when paperwork starts matching law. Amelia tried the softer gear. The voice she used on her mother. "You're really going to do this? You're going to drag this out, in front of strangers, over an apartment? Over an apartment. Over $27,000 of my money. Over 18 months of being quietly scored by her family. Over an apartment." Miss Reyes picked up a red pen. She marked 3 places on the assignment form. Then she said, very quietly, "This form cannot be processed as submitted." That was the first time Amelia stopped smiling. She shifted. I watched it happen in real time. The bright face went soft. The eyes went wet on cue. The voice dropped half an octave. "Tyrion, I know you're hurt. I get it. But my family really believed in us. Don't punish them because you failed a test you didn't understand." A test I didn't understand. There it was. The one clean admission, dressed as an accusation. Tommy, helpfully. "Man, it's just a hamster." I looked at the 2 of them. At the coffee I hadn't drunk. At Miss Reyes, waiting with her red pen. And I said the thing I had come there to say. It was never a hamster. It was a receipt. And I brought better ones. I slid the last stack across the table. Not to Amelia. To Miss Reyes. 3 printed pages. Numbered, dated, stapled. A group chat titled, Planning. Tuesday, April, 10:14 p.m. Just ran the hamster, he said. No. Done. Move Tommy in. Told you. Engineers fail this one. Miss Reyes read the top page. Then the second. Then she set them down. She looked at Amelia. She looked at Tommy. Her voice stayed level. I think we're done here today. Mr. Tieran's deposit will be refunded directly based on documented contribution. Please collect your things. Amelia opened her mouth. Miss Reyes didn't wait for it. She turned, walked 2 steps to the shredder bin behind her desk, and fed the assignment form into it. The motor chewed for 3 seconds and went quiet. They walked out in silence. For once, the playbook didn't have a page for this. 12 days later, a check cleared into my account for $27,080. $27,000 back, minus $120 in lease processing fees. I tried to send Luciana $1,500 as thanks. She refused. She donated it to a women's shelter and sent me the receipt. I blocked Amelia, Tommy, Delia, and Bianca across every channel I had. No last message. No parting shot. Nothing for the playbook to respond to. I moved across town into a smaller 1-bedroom. $1,900 a month, parking included, no white brick walls anywhere. I slept straight through the first weekend I was there. One Saturday in June, I just needed to be somewhere that wasn't my apartment. I drove past a small animal rescue on Elkhorn Boulevard and pulled into the lot. A sign out front said they needed weekend volunteers. I signed up that afternoon. Authentic change, I told myself. A man dumped over an imaginary hamster, learning to take care of real ones. The rescue had 14 of them. All real. All named. All with paperwork. I started cleaning cages on Saturday mornings. I got good at it. A small revenge, if you want to call it that, making sure every one of them had fresh bedding. 3 months in, another volunteer asked me if I wanted to grab dinner after we finished up on a Tuesday night. Her name was Nora, 29, high school science teacher. She talked openly about her mother, about her therapist, about the things she'd learned to say no to. She asked me about my day, and when I answered, she wasn't scoring it. I used to think loyalty was a test you passed by guessing the right answer. Turns out loyalty is just a person who doesn't hide the questions. There was no playbook. There was just a Saturday, a clean cage, and someone who asked me about my day and meant it.